Welcome to Audacity Works, a podcast inspired by and dedicated to the working artist, the creative entrepreneur, and generally, doing the damn thing. This exists on the premise that the world belongs to those who have the audacity to believe that their lives have value. This is for you. Welcome to Audacity Works. I am your host, Rachel Strickland, and this is episode number 172, and it's about costuming. Now, most of this episode is going to be really specific, but first we're going to start generally. And before we even do that, I have a tiny announcement. In a week or so, I'm going to be enrolling the very last cycle of the Audacity Project that I will ever hold in its current incarnation. Maybe I'll change it in the future. It'll probably be a do-it-yourself. So if you know someone who could benefit from it, or if you have been waiting, don't wait anymore. This is going to be it. This is going to be it. And the place to be is the wait list. I will put a link to that in the show notes. End of update. Or kind of end of update. I wanted to tell you that I have been continuing using My Witch's Almanac and the color of the day from last episode every day to inform what I wear, and I'm having so much fun. I am discovering clothes that I did not know that I had completely forgotten about and just look right over them, but now I'm like, oh, I need to find something orange or pink. Who has something pink? Apparently I do. And jewelry, like I hoard jewelry, and now I'm just wearing all of it because I have things in lots of different colors that I've gotten from like this grandma or that great aunt or like this friend in college gave to me. And so it has been a really fun way to remember a bunch of shit I already own. And also it's just fun. It's fun. Do you remember fun? Because we should be having some of that. We're going to need it. All right, let's talk about costuming. So most of this episode is going to be very specific to what you would want to have on hand as a working circus artist, particularly an aerialist who wants to have everything that you need and not too much. This is actually a question from my good friend Kim. What's up, Kimbo? Kimbo was asking, podcast request costumes. How many is too many? What are some staples? Best brands to avoid Amazon? What can be DIY'd with a lack of sewing knowledge? And she added, because it's important to her, that she's not saying for the piece of work that is your heart song, just like successful corporate gig, career with minimalist values, because Kim does not like to have a whole bunch of crap all over her house. So that's what we're going to do very specifically today. But first, before we do that, I want to take this really broadly. Everyone has a costume. Every career has a costume. I don't care if you're a writer, you have a costume. They're like, I don't have a costume, Rachel. I am a programmer and I never leave my dark cave and no one ever sees me, so I don't have a costume. Yes, you do. You're still wearing something, and I think we all know that it makes a difference. It makes a difference what we wear in how we feel. Because don't we remember, can we just harken back to 5 or 6 years ago during the World Panini when we weren't leaving our houses for days and days and days at a time, and if we did, we came back immediately. Don't you remember being in pajamas like all day, and at first you're like, this is awesome, I don't have to get dressed, and then a couple months go by and you're like, I'm so depressed. And of course we could have been, the depression had lots of reasons to be there, but it didn't help that we weren't getting dressed. So that is the hill I am dying on. Every job has a costume. Okay? So think about and put effort into what the costume is, not because it in particular matters what someone else says about it, but because it directly affects how you feel about you. This is something I have noticed. It's actually been a pretty stark difference because when I've been using like the color that's in the Witch's Almanac to get dressed, now it's fun to get dressed. And so I'm doing it more often because I'm so a person that will like, oops, it's 2 p.m. and I'm in a bathrobe. I don't feel good about myself, even though I've been working all day, but I do a lot of work from home. A lot of admin, and like very little goes into the studio. The studio is a small portion of what I do these days, and a small portion of the work. And of course, you got to get dressed to go to the studio. Think about that. What's the costume to go training in? There was a point of time, I think I was talking to my good friend Summer about this. Maybe it was a long time ago in San Francisco, and money was not like something that I ever had a whole bunch of while I was training or the first several years of my career. So my training clothes were not nice. They were kind of gross. They were whatever I could afford at the thrift store, or things that I had just owned for a really long time, or things that my family had given me that were hand-me-downs or gifts. And I noticed like there was this one chick in particular. I really liked her energy, and she would come into the gym and she always looked bangarang. And it wasn't that she was wearing fancy things. She just looked like she put effort into getting dressed. And I talked to her about it once. I'm like, you always look so good. How do you do that? And she's like, honestly, I do it as an antidepressant. I invested some money into the clothes that I wear to train in because I was training in garbage and it made me feel like garbage. And I was spending like hours and hours and hours of every day in these garbage clothes. So I said, fuck it, saved up some money, invested it, and now I feel a lot better when I go training. I never forgot that. No, it does make a difference. Everybody has a costume. And if you are, and I know there's a lot of you, you're like, I don't like thinking about costuming. It's not a gift that I have. It's not a skill set that I have. I get it. This is why we have friends. Like, you can't just ignore costuming, specifically now, especially if you're a performer. You can't pretend like that doesn't matter. You can't just dismiss it as unimportant because you're not interested in that part of your work. It's still part of your job, and you need to figure out a way to get it done. You don't have to care, but you do have to do the due diligence of putting in the time and effort. I have a little bit of a bee in my bonnet about world-class physical artists, just like mwah, chef's kiss in movement. And like, they don't own a costume other than a pair of raggedy ass jeans and like a white tank top. I'm like, what are you doing? You put so much into what you are doing, and then you wrap it up in what, a bodysuit from American Apparel? No. Okay, so coming off the soapbox a little bit, just put your energy, some energy, into the costuming, right? If you don't like it, use one of your friends' brains. We don't have to be experts in everything, yet that's what our community is for. Someone that you know loves costuming. Use them. Use their brain. Use their expertise. Okay, so now we're going to get super specific on staples that I think you should have if you want to have like a successful hashtag gig life career doing corporate events as an aerialist. And I will try, Kim, to be minimalist about this. I am not a minimalist. I have a room in my house. It's the laundry room, but we call it the garment district, and it's where all of my costuming is from 19 years of working as a performer And it's a lot of bins, and I don't throw anything away because things really come full circle. I'm like, wow, I'm glad I hung on to this prom dress that was my best friend's in high school when she was a sophomore, because I totally used it as a Jessica Rabbit dress. True story. And I have found that a lot of things do end up being useful. Not clutter in the house. I'm not an actual hoarder, but costuming. Once I get a piece, I rarely let go of it. So Kim, I'll do my best. All right, let's talk about staples. I recommend that you have one of each of these, either white, silver, or gold. A costume. A nice costume that is sparkly in one of those options. White, silver, or gold. As a base, it should be able to be rated PG-13. You can make it rated R or rated G with the addition or subtraction of certain elements, like a bolero top over the shoulders. Suddenly it's rated G. Throw on a waist cincher and a garter belt. Suddenly it's rated R. And this is something that I learned from my friend 3, who was he cast artists for the Supper Club in San Francisco when it was open. And we always had a good time, and he would always give it in ratings. He'd be like, okay, I need you to be Poison Ivy from the Marvel series, and it needs to be rated PG-13, but they think they want R, but they don't really. I'm like, got it. I know how to work with that. So thinking about costuming in terms of ratings, most of what you do, if you're doing corporate work, is going to be PG-13. Okay, so we can say we have one of these options, white or gold or silver. A lot can be covered in one of those costumes. You will also need something in black. Again, sparkly, reflective in some way, or with something that you can add to make it sparkly. There goes the heater. Sorry about the background noise. Another staple is I would highly recommend that you have a costume in your arsenal that is quote unquote classic circus. This gets asked for a lot. Anytime someone's like, it's a circus theme, it's a Barnum and Bailey theme, it's a Greatest Showman theme, even it's a Moulin Rouge theme. Kind of depends on what they're really asking for. What they really mean is just look like you're in the circus. And an easy way to accomplish that is by having a red sparkly bodysuit of some kind and accessories that are black and white striped. If you do stilting, very easy. You just make black and white striped stilt covers, boom, throw them on top of any of the bodysuits that you have. Now, in addition to those 3 staples, either white, silver, gold, and black, and classic circus with a red base, I really do recommend it. You should have one more costume that's in a color that you actually like, just for fun. Now, let's talk accessories. You will need some silly hats and headpieces. Definitely for the classic circus look, probably for other things. Do you know what's great for this is to go to a craft supply store and get some fake flowers, like big ones, big fake flowers. And then if you are a crafty person, I would get some Swarovskis in a complementary color and Swarovski the shit out of that fake flower. Super glue it or hot glue it onto a barrette or a comb or a headband. Boom, instant headpiece. More details to consider: studs that are sparkly studs if your ears are pierced. Once again, in white or silver, black, and red, at least. Other accessories that can add or subtract depending on what you want: a garter belt, thigh highs, sleeves, not that are joined in the back, just from wrist 2 bicep sleeves. Those can be sparkly or not. The garter belt and the thigh highs are useful if someone wants you to be sexy. Oh my god, okay, fine. For the first 2 entire years of my performing career, I mostly wore what we called at the time dark circus. It was kind of like the classic circus look, except really ripped up. Like, we would wear different kinds of stripes and fishnets with holes in them. And that was just very on brand for Vaudeville, who I was doing a lot of work with back then. The dark circus look, like a real favorite. I still have those pieces. Like, they held up. Speaking of fishnets, I do recommend that you have some high quality, like, showgirl strength fishnets. I'm not talking about that bullshit that you blow on it and there's a hole. I mean primo showgirl strength, seamed, if you can get them, fishnets. Capezio makes them really high quality. And if you like, you can have a sit down and watch a bunch of reruns of Frasier or something, and you can Swarovski these with hotfix stones, or you can use E6000 glue in a well-ventilated space, and then these fishnets act as part of your costume because, one, they're sparkly if you have bedazzled them. They are great at smoothing the texture of this long ass limb that you have from your hip to the floor. And we're like, what do we do with these legs if we're not wearing a full body unitard? We're like, what do you do with the legs? You put some fishnets on them. And remember, I'm talking about corporate gigs, okay? I'm not trying to talk about even making your heart song art. Corporate gig friendly. If you do aerial in these high quality fishnets, you must wear pantyhose under them. Okay? It makes it so much easier to take on and off, and it prevents the fishnets from taking a big old bite out of your knee pit, because they will. I have a scar. I can prove it to you. Also, if you are going to do aerial in these fishnets, the high quality fishnets they're footed tights, and that looks terrible. Please do not go into the air in footed fishnets. I beg of you, don't ever let me see that happen to you. There is an easy way to alter fishnets so that they look great on your feet. They accentuate the arch. You can still climb a fabric or a rope with them. I promise that you can. It's a really easy sewing trick. I have a video about it. I am going to put it in the show notes. Please do not just snip the toes and the heels off of your $30 high quality fishnets and be like, look, I made stirrups. No, you didn't. You ruined a pair of tights. Let's do it correctly. Another detail that people really seem to forget are you will need shoes to walk out to the apparatus and then walk back to the dressing room. No, I don't mean flip-flops. I don't mean flip-flops. I mean shoes. Something else. Something that doesn't just throw the whole presentation into the shitter. And of course, it doesn't have to be heels, but heels are actually really easy for this because you don't usually have to walk very far, and heels are kind of evil, right? It makes you taller so people can see you coming, and they're usually step in, step out of. And then you just keep them there, and then you have something to walk back in that's not a pair of Havanas. I know I'm so grumpy and salty about all of this. I've been annoyed for 19 years by these amazing artists that just didn't put any thought into this part of their work, their presentation that's so important. You don't need a whole shit ton of shit. You just need it to be intentional and spend some time with it. Practice in it before you go up. Don't just assume that you're like, man, no, I'm not good at this. And you're like, well, I guess people will just deal with the fact that I'm not. Yeah, they will deal with it, but come on. You can do it. You can do this. Kim, I have tried to honor your question in terms of minimalism. Not sure that I succeeded, but I do think all of this can and should be able to fit in like a decent size Tupperware bin. You know? You don't need the 9 of them that I have. Because it's true. I love costuming, and I like just having a whole room full of these bits and bobs and fabric. I have way too much fabric, but you never know. It could be helpful. There was some hot pink fabric I bought like 9 years ago because I was going to make a costume for my friend who likes hot pink, and I didn't. Like, she quit doing the thing, so like, okay, never mind. But I didn't get rid of that fabric, and guess what? It was the perfect match for the costume that I wore in the middle section of the Monstrous Feminine, the Baby Look Pretty Now Mama. I will put a link to the Patreon post. I don't think it's public because it shouldn't be, but I will put a link to that post so that you can see what I'm talking about. And because I needed to alter that costume, and it worked so well. I'm so glad I never threw this out. So I'm probably not the best person to be giving minimalist advice, but I do know good costuming. And if you're looking for suppliers for these things, like Swarovski's, there is a company called Looking Glass Gems. They're Black family owned. I will put a link to that in the show notes. And I know Kim was also asking for brands. And I have so far talked shit about American Apparel because I really hate when people use an American Apparel leotard as a costume. It's not a costume. But if you don't have to know how to sew. I do know how to sew. I'm not great at it, but I have always made all of my bodysuits because I am not sample sized, and I wanted what I wanted, and most costumes looked like crap on me that were off the shelf. So I just made them. So you can use your friends who have expertise and delight in these things to make you a costume. You can hire someone to make you a costume. There's lots of makers on Etsy that like Circus is out of the bag. So people are aware that folks need costumes made for them. And if you're on a budget and you want to just have something simple and you don't mind bedazzling on your own, Discount Dance Supply. Try Discount Dance Supply. Well, damn diddly, folks. I just did a search because I'm like, well, let me look and see what life is like on Discount Dance right now. And there, you can't order. You can't order from them right now because they're changing stewardship, changing owners. They're very excited about it, but like I'm not, because that was one of the only places you could get high quality bases for costumes. Well, here's what I'm going to suggest as an alternative. Put out the bat signal to your community. See who has costumes that they would like to get rid of. Maybe they want to sell them. I have several pieces that I got. Sylphie Curran, before she moved to Europe, she was just selling off like her clothes, her costumes, and everything. And I got several pieces from Sylphie during her big sale, and I still wear them all the time. Like, even though everything's a costume. Everything's a costume. Okay, so that is a bummer about Discount Dance, because that was a good brand and one that I could vouch for. So my official recommendation is going to be, first and foremost, your friends, your community, and then Etsy, both for already made and couture. I hear really good things about Highwire. I think people really like the Highwire brand. It's expensive as far as I know, but they're they're couture. So yeah, it's going to cost. But if you've got a hot glue gun or some E6000 and you have like a good base leotard and some bedazzled fishnets, like you can bedazzle a leotard or like a shorty uni or a halter uni and add some sleeves, and like suddenly it's a costume with some effort and time and a few episodes of Frasier. I don't know why that is my preferred show to like bedazzle things to, but it is. So I've said it twice now and dated myself. I did not realize how much I had to say on costuming. I've been talking for almost 26 minutes. Okay. So looking at the time, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you, Kim, for your question. If you have follow-up questions, I want to know about it, and I will absolutely do an addendum episode. Did not realize I felt so strongly and had so much to say about costuming. But, it's something that I love. And next time, if any of y'all come visit me, come look in my costuming room. Maybe I will give you a treat. We'll see. If you have requests for future episodes, I would love to hear about it. You can reach me always on Instagram at Rachel Strickland Creative or on Patreon at Rachel Strickland Creative. This podcast is powered by Patreon, so extra velvet shout out to my amazing patrons for standing by me. Thank you for your trust. Thank you for your belief. And thank you for your attention and for making this and so much more possible. This could not exist without you. Until next time, my friends, remember, every job has a costume. And don't go back to sleep.